Hi.
It worked.
Hi, babes.
Hi. Look how cute you look.
Look how cute you look.
Oh, thanks. I was lazy today.
Girl, I like your beanie and your colors. You know, you'd be making Brad very proud right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
What are you doing?
I'm just kicking it in Montana in a little mountain home at the moment. It definitely snowed like a foot yesterday. So that's my new
Really?
life. Real
Oh,
cold. It's supposed to be
I'm
minus
jealous.
11 this weekend.
I
So,
mean, no big deal.
no big deal.
What are you going to do? Just stay inside?
Yeah, hot cocoa, and I think I need a new show if you have any suggestions because I need to get into something and
I
maybe
mean, I
hot
was going
tubs.
to say Yellowstone, but you know how I already
Girl,
feel about it.
you
So
know how I feel about Yellowstone. It's why we got a place in Montana.
I
This
could just
show
watch it over and over and
over
over.
and over
I
again.
can't even get started talking about it because then I'll just keep talking about
That's
it.
all we'll talk about.
So we can just start talking about
Let's do it.
what the whole purpose of this is. And of course, it's all about Bullying Prevention Month, and the month is winding down. So I wanted to talk to you about your perspective on it. Even though I pretty much know everything about it, I feel like we can share a lot of your advice and experiences with all of our friends that are watching right now. So let's start off with telling us about things that you've dealt with when you were younger. What did you
Okay.
experience with like bullying or cyberbullying,
Yeah.
whatever it might be?
Yeah, I think my most traumatizing experience was actually when I was in 7th grade. And I grew up in Austin, and I was at Westridge Middle School. And I remember we had a basketball game with our opposing team, Hill Country. And apparently I talked to one of the boys from the other school for a few minutes too long, unbeknownst to me. He wasn't even the boy that I had a crush on. I had a very serious crush on Tyler Duncan, to be clear. However, I was talking to this other guy, and again, thought nothing of it, woke up, went to school the next day, and my like 6 best girlfriends were not speaking to me, like straight up cold shoulder, like walked up to him and was like, "Hey girl," and she literally like turned around and walked off. And I was like, what? It was my first moment of like Mean Girls experience. And then I went to another friend and I was like, "Oh my God, is she okay? What's going on?" Turn around, walked off. Like each one of these girls, and I just sat there having like no idea what I did wrong. And then I think finally one of the girls kind of felt bad for me, and she came over and she was like, "Well, you were talking to so and so, and Ashley has a crush on him, and that wasn't cool." And and it was one of those where I was like trying to defend myself and was like, "I don't even like him. I don't even have a crush on him. Like, what do you mean?" And I mean, it sounds so silly, but I had nowhere to sit at the lunch table because I couldn't sit with any of my girlfriends. And so I remember vividly, like viscerally, that I went into the bathroom with little styrofoam trays. And I remember I had tater tots. And the reason I remember this is I sat on the toilet and I was eating my food. And I remember my tears like falling onto my tater tots in 7th grade. And that like haunting
so
me to this day. It was so sad. And then of course it was like 7th grade girls. So by the next day, hey girl, like, and I think I ended up talking to one of the girls years later, like my hometown back in Austin. And I was like, "Do you remember in 7th grade?" Of course, none of them have any recollection of like this incredibly traumatizing experience for me. So I think it really sends like that first time that you're bullied. I think it sends an imprint into you. Forever. And then you kind of and you kind of live in this constant fear that like somehow that's going to get re-triggered.
I think so this is, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you about. So I wanted to share how we met and who I thought you were before we met, because I thought you were a teenager.
You thought I was a teenager?
Yes, I thought I told you this.
Story.
So
no.
Okay, so we did TED in December of 2013, but it was right at the beginning. So a few weeks prior, you and Sarah had emailed me to be a speaker for TEDx Austin Women. I didn't know what TED was at the time, so I ignored the email because I thought it was spam. And then I talked to my dad about it, and he was like, "Are you kidding? I read about it in the paper. Like, I was hoping they would ask you to do it." Anyway, they emailed again, and then you emailed me again to do it. And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it. I'm so excited." And then I saw like your signature with your name, and I thought you were in high school. I was
love
like,
it.
oh, this girl is so sweet. She's so nice. And I didn't look you up because I didn't know like who you were. And then we had our first Skype because we met on Skype. And
I know exactly where I was sitting when we met. I was in California staying at a girlfriend's house in Northern California.
Yeah, and we were talking, and I was like, okay, she's not in high school. Who is this girl? She's so nice. And then I looked you up, and I saw everything with you going on Survivor, and I Am That Girl. So what was, like, your journey towards, like, everything that you did leaving college?
Yeah, I finished grad school, did my undergrad and master's at USC, finished grad school, and I was launching I Am That Girl out of grad school, and I kind of had this crazy idea that I was going to go on a reality TV show, and I was going to leverage that to help promote this new company that I was.
Okay, I don't know.
There we are.
It just put you in silent.
All of a sudden, you were like, "I can't hear you."
Yeah.
And I was like,
I don't know where we stopped.
I don't know where we stopped. It was something about.
It was with I Am That Girl.
I Am That Girl. Yeah. Leveraging Survivor to start I Am That Girl. And I Am That Girl being really just kind of this, and I think it was a combination of like being traumatized in 7th grade, but was, you know, thinking like, what does sisterhood really look like, and what could it look like to bring humans together and to create this really safe place, especially as girls, where we could feel held and where we could express all of us. We could have our highest of highs and our moments of badassery, but then we could also have, you know, these like total crushing, brokenhearted, fall apart to pieces, and trust that at any given moment there'd be another sister there to like hold us and pick us back up. So I Am That Girl was always kind of a badass version of Girl Scouts for college girls.
Was I Am That Girl when you first started speaking?
Yep.
Do you remember your first speech?
Yep. Ann Richards Leadership School in Austin.
Oh, wow.
That was my first one. And
what was it about?
Was it
just all about I Am That Girl?
It was about like kind of all the stress we're feeling all the time. And I think I came in super dolled up. Like my hair was like all done, and I was in adorable clothes and all the things. And I mean, this sounds sketchy, but I ended up like completely changing in real time in front of all these young girls, and like took all the makeup off my face and like threw my hair up in a messy bun and like took off my heels and my jewelry and all the stuff, and like had sweatpants, had like shorts and stuff under and a tank top, and then like took off my dress and put on like baggy sweatpants and a t-shirt, and was just like, who are we in this moment? You know, because it's one thing to come in here like all dolled up with this very, you know, with this intent to want to be liked, because I think we all naturally do want to be liked. And what does it feel like to kind of deconstruct the idea of beauty, the idea of expectations? And I remember thinking that I was hoping it was going to be successful, you know, that it wasn't going to be like awkward, that I was changing and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just kind of this idea of, I think we're all really like, we have that little girl who's scared inside of us. Yeah. And what happens when, instead of trying to pretend like she doesn't exist or pretend that she's, you know, not scared, that we just kind of acknowledge her, and we like welcome her to the table too. And we protect her and we love her and we cherish her and we remind her that she's amazing.
I think something that I've learned from you since I've known you and just I find so admirable is your authenticity and being vulnerable, like not just on stage, but just when a camera isn't on you, and when you're posting on social media, everything is so real. Especially lately, all your posts have been so sincere and so heartfelt. Have you, when you post these, has there been a fear at all before you post them? And what has like the reaction been like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that the irony, of course, is that the more honest and authentic we are, we give people permission to be honest and authentic as themselves. And I think I spent so much of my life, you and I have talked about this, I've spent so much of my life kind of playing this like perfect version of me, and realizing how uncomfortable it made other people, because it sent these like subconscious like expectations for them that like, I'm not going to showcase the real me, but like you're also not allowed to showcase the real you. Right. So we're both going to kind of pretend. And I think it's not this like conscious thing. It's not something that people are necessarily aware of. But what I found was I spent a lot of time doing that. And then at a certain point, I just got exhausted. And I think the first post I ever did, which was kind of my bravest moment, was I wrote an article called Alexis Jones, the Fraud. And I wrote this whole piece about how I spent my whole life wanting people to like me. And I'd spent my whole life trying to like live this, you know, kind of perfect Barbie-like expectation, and that the reality was I was terrified and I was insecure and I was like all these things. And at the time I was like founder, CEO of I Am That Girl, and like speaking on all these panels and doing all this stuff. And that was my first moment where I remember I hit send. And the minute I hit send, it was like that vulnerability hangover that Brene Brown talks about. I was like, what have I done? Oh my God. Like, I want to delete it. I want to, you know, people are really going to see this and they're really going to see me. And I think that was kind of my first moment of like bravery enough to really showcase all of me, not just like the shiny parts. And then of course, you know, and this is so much of who you are in your personal brand, and like the permission that you give all of your followers and supporters, and myself even. Of course, the irony is that on the other side of that, it was the most comments. It was, and I don't just mean public comments. I mean people texting me out of the woodworks of being like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm not going to lie. You're always really intimidating. And, you know, so then I feel like once you see that there's like really beautiful, positive affirmation, and I think with social media, we just have a responsibility. Like if this is truly an extension of who we are, I feel like we owe it to each other to not just post a social media highlight reel of our lives. Because like at any given moment, like we're all struggling with different things. And so I try to be intentional with like, pictures at the Oscars, that's cool. You know, but followed by like, here are like my no makeup faces. And then here are my like 6 hours later, like dolled up pictures of me on the red carpet kind of thing. Always wanting to showcase, like there are two sides to everything, you know?
And it's so much, I feel like since I've been extremely vulnerable over the past few years, because for so long I felt like I couldn't be vulnerable because I would lose that sense of inspiration and positivity that I sort of started with going out there unintentionally in a way. And I kept thinking if I like show them the true side of like, I'm not happy today, or I'm not feeling happy about myself today, that it wasn't going to be accepted. But I realized like how wrong I was with thinking that, and how great it feels to connect with people, especially when you're a public figure who has a blue check mark by your name, to give them the reminder that we are human, and we do, you know, get upset at times when people say not so nice things in the comment section. And when we stick up for ourselves and do other things like that, it's sort of this reminder that we have to keep putting out there that at the end of the day, we're just like you, no matter what we do.
Yep. No question. And like I said, I feel like you, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I was just going to say, I feel like that is such a gift that you have given me, like in our personal friendship. And like one of my favorite stories is when you were spending the night at our house and I had to leave early in the morning. I went to that event and I was speaking, and it was like a book signing, and I came back and you were like, how was it? And I was like, and I like curled up in bed with you, and I was like, I'm not going to lie. One of the women who was like 20 years older than us, remember, she was like said the rudest thing. And I was like, I'm not going to lie. I've had a really like, who says things like that? I was so upset. And you were just like, yeah, that happens sometimes too. Obviously, you've had so much experience with that kind of like visceral, like hating. And in that moment, you've so much grace for those. And like my curiosity has always been, and what I admire so much about you is that grace that you extend to people who are clearly in so much pain that the only way they know to engage with other people is through causing them pain. And I just think it's such a beautiful attribute about you.
Thank you. So we have to touch on Protect Her. And I want you to tell people a little bit about it and why you started it and all that good stuff. Quick little summary. I was running I'm That Girl for a really long time and realized I was having a lot of siloed conversations with girls. Meanwhile, I had worked at Fox Sports and ESPN and worked a lot in the sports world, and was asked to come and give a talk to the top 18 quarterbacks in the country on the importance of respecting women. And a little snippet of that ended up going viral. So overnight, I was hired by, feels like every Division I locker room in the country, to go in and to have these tough love, big sister conversations with young men on the importance of respecting the girls and women in their lives. And so we ended up creating a documentary and a program so that young men could figure out how to own and respect themselves. Because that whole idea, we can't give something we don't have.
So the idea was like, how do we instill these young men who are just as scared and just as insecure, only they've been taught they're not allowed to feel any of that, and they have to like put on this like super intense armor, you know?
Yeah.
And how do you kind of remind them of the importance of their own heartbeat, and how do you make them feel really good about themselves so that, again, they're able to turn around and offer that to others?
I think what's super great about everything you've done is that you are just a girl from Austin, like I am, who sort of had this mission in mind to do something. And I'm assuming that I could speak for you to say that you had no idea what it was going to turn into.
None.
And the scale that it was going to take, and sort of this responsibility that we put on ourselves to make sure that we are using our platforms to the best of our ability. And so to wrap all of this up, with this year being as insane as it is,
Totally.
with 2020 coming to an end, with October coming to an end, what is something that what is like an action plan that you can give people who are watching this now or who will watch this later, to sort of give them hope, not only when it comes to dealing with bullies or cyberbullies, but just in general? Like, what is something that they can do, 2 or 3 things that they can do to sort of help pick themselves back up again?
Sure. In no particular order, I think that this is kind of a strange one, but I just read this incredible book called Breathe. And the whole thing is like literally the power of breath. I think in the hard times, in the times in which we're really struggling and when adversity is real and the challenges are present, I think that there's something really beautiful about the power of breath, about getting quiet and getting still. And the irony for me, again, is like, it's the hardest thing for me to do, especially when I'm feeling like super emotional. But I think there's a combination of breath and then connecting to whatever you consider your higher power, like the God of your understanding, and whether that's yoga, whether that is church, whether that is going for long walks, whether that is meditating, whatever that is, I think that stillness is like absolutely essential. And even if you can only sit there for like 3 minutes at a time, but I think some kind of practice where you're getting intentionally still and you're getting intentionally quiet, and you're really, even if you're only listening to like your own heartbeat. But I think with how chaotic the world is right now, that like figuring out how to like listen to that internal voice and honor that internal voice. And then the third, of course, is just like the caliber of humans that you surround yourself with. Like find your tribe, love them hard, because life is never meant to be done alone. It's meant to be done in community. So I think getting really intentional with the people that you're choosing to do life with, that is like the game changer.
Whether virtually or in person.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's it. Did you enjoy your first live?
Girl, I was so nervous. I was like sweating. I was like texting you right before, being like, what do I do? So I go to your page. Yeah, I'm grateful that I got to see your beautiful face, and I love you so much.
Thank you. I love you too.
Yeah, happy Friday. As soon as I'm back in Austin, I can't wait to kick it.
I know, me too. Once I can be around people again, we can hug.
Yeah, that too. I know. I need some hugs from you.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll talk to you later.
I love you, honey.
Bye. Love you.